So, hello everyone. Welcome to this show. It's called Atomic Renaissance. Cheers. What do you have for me today? I can see presentation with flags. I know you're very excited to talk about flags. So, what made you come up with this topic? What exactly excited you about this topic?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. Ever since we planned to start this project, I have been thinking what topic to pick. And flags was a little odd for me because I never grew up being fascinated by flags. Also, in India, right, you don't see that many flags around. But after moving to Europe, I started seeing a lot of flags being displayed very proudly everywhere. And here where I stay, there are a lot of these community gardens. It's like a small plot of land where you can grow your vegetables and fruits and things like that. And they put their country's flag, on top of like the small hut. You see a lot of different European flags over there. And I found it a little challenging identifying some of the flags earlier. So it was very interesting when we thought of starting this series to pick up flags as a topic to kind of see how these flags were created historically. And I didn't know a lot of things about Indian flag as well. And what I found out while researching about this was quite interesting. So I'll start with the Indian flag, a few things that maybe you were not familiar with, because I definitely was not before I started out in this. Okay, so we'll start with the story. There's this guy, Naveen Jindal. He studied in the US. He went to University of Texas in Dallas. Over there, he was in the student union. He had this office of his where he proudly displayed the Indian flag. He was very passionate about it. When he came back to India, his family ran this steel company, and he went to one of these steel factories where he was a manager. And one of the Republic days, it was 1993. Where he hoisted the Indian flag, and he was very proud about it. The very next day, the management of the factory took down the flag. And when he went to ask them, why did you take it down? They were like, I thought we were just flying it for Republic Day. And he was like, no, let's put it back. It's a good sign, for us to all collectively work towards development of the country. So he puts it back. It stays there for about a year. In 1994, he has one of these commissioners of like a certain area visiting. He found it odd for the flag to be flying there. He inquired about it, and somebody told him, yeah, it's been there for a year now. And he was like, what is happening? Don't you know you're not allowed to fly the flag outside of designated days? And this guy, like maybe as you are, was surprised that there were designated days that you could fly a flag. So turns out private citizens were not allowed to fly the flag outside of Independence Day, Republic Day, like these big national holidays. It was only in government offices and like some designated places, and people with some designated positions who were allowed to even fly the flag.
Uh, and this rule still exists?
Yes, I'll come to that. So
Okay,
uh, our guy Naveen
that's very
Jindal,
interesting.
yes. So our guy Naveen Jindal is frustrated about it. He's like, it's my right to fly the flag. I lived in the US. I would fly it every day over there, and nobody complained about it, even though it was outside of the country. And now I'm in India and I'm not allowed to fly the flag. This is ridiculous. The commissioner got upset. He again asked them to get down the flag, and it still stayed. So they called the cops. The cops came and took down the flag. Naveen Jindal was frustrated, and he was like, I'm going to fight this in court. He goes to the Delhi High Court and makes his case over there. And the Delhi High Court like listens to him, and they're like, yes, it's kind of an executive order. So like it's not really a law. So you are not incorrect in doing this, as long as you're doing it respectfully or whatever. And the Delhi High Court tells, okay, you can fly the flag. So he comes back, flies it again. And during this time, the Union of India, the Indian government takes notice of this, and they take this case to Supreme Court. So in 1996, the case goes to Supreme Court, and the appeal basically is that the policy to restrict the use of national flag to the barest minimum was meant to ensure that it's not dishonored. The government of India is like, people would not show it at most honor when they get to fly it every day. But the Supreme Court wanted to hear the case because it went into the Supreme Court and became quite popular in the news and all. The Indian government creates a committee where they want to hear more about it, and Jindal even makes his case for it. And they finally, in 2002, take the recommendations from the committee and create the Flag Code of India. They were finally like, okay, private citizens can also fly the flag on any day, as long as they are following the flag code. And the Supreme Court later in 2004 declares that it's a fundamental right of every Indian citizen to fly it.
It gives so much insights into that how a rule which is written to do something specific is actually obstructing that. Like you're supposed
Absolutely.
to honor the flag by not flying it, but you're not allowed to honor the flag.
Right.
It's crazy, and they had to go to Supreme Court. That's really
Yeah.
insane story.
Also in our lifetime.
Yeah,
This was
yeah.
2004, and I had no clue about it. I
Yeah.
didn't know it was illegal for me to fly the flag outside of designated
Yeah,
days.
things we take
Insane.
granted for, right?
Then I went into understanding some of the evolution of the Indian flag, because India was not one united union as it is now. There weren't specific flags that you can trace back to. Royal families probably had their flags, but that was not the flag that we took later once we got independent. Prior to the Sepoy Mutiny, it was the East India Company flag. And you kind of see the evolution of the East India Company flag as well, because first it is just the flag of England with this red and white stripes. And later, when Scotland joins, they kind of merge both the flag of England and flag of Scotland, and that becomes the Great Britain flag. And then the final version, which is even there today, is the Union Jack flag with the addition of Northern Ireland. And later, when the British government started getting involved in it, you had a different variation of the flag. Although these flags were not always used to symbolize or represent India, you kind of have the flag of the Viceroy, flag of the Navy, the civilian flag. But what was interesting is the logo over here. So you see this logo, it's called the Star of India. Apparently, a logo was created without too many religious symbolisms in it. And it did look very familiar to me, this logo.
Yeah,
Do you know what?
the emblem in the middle, right?
Right.
What is it? I've seen this many places. It's there even on that on Indian cap as well. It's there, I think.
Exactly.
Is it the
It
same
is the
one?
logo of BCCI.
Oh, is it?
Right.
Oh, wow.
So the logo of BCCI is also like, kind of taken from this. And it makes sense, right? Because the Cricket Association was made prior to the independence of India. And there are also a few companies that used a similar icon. There is this insurance company that still exists today, Oriental Insurance, has a similar logo as well. And this poster was super interesting to look at. This is the United Nations poster during World War II, when there was this appeal to create a United Nations. Look at all the flags in this. A lot of flags are not the same flags that we use today.
Right.
So look at Russia, of course. It's
Russia
a
was the
different
Soviet
flag.
Union one. China is the Taiwanese one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Belgium is
then
the
there is
same.
Canada.
Canada. Yeah.
Which also changed its flag.
I think they became a independent nation and not a dominion. It was a dominion before, right?
I see.
I think during around the same time it was.
Okay. Then there's India. You see the similar flag that we saw in the previous slide. There's Poland with this emblem on top, which is no longer there. the
South
South
Africa.
African flag is changed. Also,
The
there's
apartheid
Yugoslavia,
flag. This is.
which ends up getting split.
Oh, true. Yugoslavia is very similar to a flag which exists. Is it Luxembourg? Something like that.
No, Luxembourg is the
Oh,
inverse
it's
of
the
it.
other way around. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to Yugoslavia. I have a slide about this.
Hmm.
Then during the freedom movement, there were different flags. This first flag is the Swarajya flag. This was the first flag that we know of that was used to unite everyone against the British rule. This was launched during one of these annual Indian National Congress sessions. And this was also the very first flag of independence of India that was flown outside of India. So
Mhm.
there is this person called Bikaji Kama who took this flag to the International Socialist Congress in Stuttgart. Then there's flag of the Home Rule movement, which Bal Gangadhar Tilak was a part of, and Annie Besant. And you see some similarities with the British flag over here. And the star symbol in the middle is the constellation of Ursa Minor.
Ah, yes.
Uh,
Okay.
it
What is
it
the significance of that?
It's apparently a Hindu sacred symbol. It's
I
also
see.
called Saptarishi Mandala.
I see. Okay, that's Saptarshi. I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Interesting.
and then there was the Swaraj flag. Oh, I'm
That is
sorry.
pretty famous, the Swaraj flag. I've seen
Right.
this as the precursor for Indian national flag.
Right, yeah. Small correction. The first flag was the Swadeshi movement flag.
Right.
And this was the Swaraj flag.
Right.
So Gandhi had commissioned Pingali Venkaiah to create this flag. He had commissioned it for the 1921 Indian National Congress session, but unfortunately it wasn't completed by then. And in 1923, after Jallianwala Bagh,
Hmm.
this flag was used in a lot of protests
Hmm.
across the country. It ends up becoming very popular during that time because there was something called the flag satyagraha that was called for, which is
Ah.
in defiance to the British rule, you take this flag and fly it in public and private
Hmm.
buildings. It ended up gaining like a lot of attention. There's also the Azad Hind flag. I was not able to find a lot of text about it, but it seems
Yeah,
to
this is the
be
first time I'm seeing it.
right. This is the Subhash Chandra Bose flag. Although some accounts still say that he had used the Swaraj flag, but not sure. So all of these flags were there, and just before the independence of India, there was a committee formed to decide on what flag to use. As usual, for any decision in India, there's a committee. Rajendra Prasad was heading it, and they basically decide to use what was then called
Hmm.
the Ashoka Chakra. It is said that Nehru also wanted the Ashoka Chakra instead of the Charka because it's more balanced, it's symmetric.
True. Yeah. I didn't like the Charka one. It's that looks very imbalanced, and yeah, it didn't look that cool.
So basically, the committee considers to take the Dharma Chakra instead of the Charka. And it is interesting because the whole emblem, the
Hmm.
chakra, and if you know of the lion capital, the one that's used in like a lot of
National
symbols in
emblem.
the national emblem, that was only discovered in 1900s. So it was during the lifetime
Right.
of a lot of the nationalists. Although Mountbatten wasn't aware that this was going to be the flag that was decided by the committee, he ends up sending this proposal of the Swaraj flag with the British Union Jack in the canton. Canton basically is this top left corner of the flag, and he sent a similar flag to Pakistan as well. So it is the current day Pakistan flag with the British Union
Ah.
Jack in the canton. And he heard back from both Jinnah and Nehru. So Jinnah basically was like, it would be repugnant to the religious feelings of Muslims to have a Christian cross next to
Right.
the Islamic crescent. And Nehru was a bit more diplomatic about it. I'll read what I found in the passage about this. Nehru said in a diplomatic way that although Gandhi and Patel were originally willing to accept it, he has now come to the conclusion that the prevailing feeling among extremists in the INC was that the leaders were pandering to the British. I'm going to use this in one of my emails.
I mean, back then you could be so passive aggressive by using words and it would sound nice and you'd be like, okay, that's not passive aggressive. But you know, the style of it, if it's an orange background and there's a Union Jack which is red, white and blue, it just doesn't go. I mean, recommend something else, like, you know, some other color with this thing. Don't slap this Union Jack in the canton. With Pakistan, a green background, really? Red, white and blue with green? I mean, that would be the best reply to them. You know, the color schemes just don't go. We are that different, you know?
I also started reading the Flag Code of India, which is also very interesting. Very similar to a lot of other countries' flag codes, but a few specific things in the Indian Flag Code is that you are not allowed to use the flag as a costume or have it on cushions or handkerchiefs or undergarments or any dress material. Makes you think of America where,
and UK as well. There's so many.
True.
The Union Jack is like on slippers.
Right. Yeah. And also any symbol, like even if you have like a flag pin, it can never be worn below the waist. It should always be above the waist.
Yeah, good luck enforcing that. But yeah, it's a... Say, what's that in your pocket? Oh.
Yeah.
Is that an Indian tricolor?
Yeah, but some of these things make sense because, this is representing your entire country. And I see why you would want to treat it with reverence, but not making it accessible is not the way.
My 2 cents on it, what the reason why they wanted to put so many limitations on people to not desecrate a union symbol is because the union was very unstable at the start. They did not know that it would be possible for them to, they just united 500 kingdoms together under one flag. Now, if every person in that kingdom was allowed to desecrate that flag, then the authority of it would be resolved, it would be coming down to violence. You have to impose your rule on people to get them to obey. And I think 21st century, start of 21st century was the best time for Naveen to bring up this question, because we lasted for 50 odd years. How much more time do you need to not allow a public person to fly their flag if they want to do it in honor? That was a very good question from him.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And kind of symbolic as well, right? Because India started liberalizing and even the flag code needed liberalization, and this was part of it. Yeah. So next, I wanted to not only contrast it with a flag that is very different from it, but also find something that was common, and that is the flag of United States. So this is a very famous picture. This is George Washington crossing the river Delaware, and this was one of these iconic battles that he fought. One thing is really incorrect in this image. Do you want to guess what it is? I mean, the painting was made like much later.
They were all sick while crossing the river?
Not exactly. Maybe in a way, because Washington was quite old, and apparently him, being able to stand like that on a windy day on a moving boat was probably not likely. But one thing that's incorrect in this is the flag. America never used stars and stripes when they were fighting for independence.
Right. Interesting.
And also interestingly, even when they were signing the Declaration of Independence, they didn't have the flag, and they would not have their own flag for about a year after the Declaration of Independence, which happened in 1776, and they only got the flag in the form that we know of now in 1777. And guess what the flag was before?
The Union Jack?
Yes. Also, very similar to the East India Company flag, if you remember.
Exactly. This is the first if you compare it, it's same. It's just the stripes might be different, but number of
There
stripes
were,
might be.
yeah, I think there were still 13 stripes, which later ends up becoming the number of stripes in American flag as well. Also, interestingly, there's no Northern Ireland.
Ah, right. Yeah. No, actually, I thought when you mentioned the East India Company flag, I thought the red stripes looked a lot like a American flag, but it did. That means they were
Good
the same
catch.
flags.
Yeah. And there are some artifacts as well. So there's this one bill, kind of like IOU, and you kind of see the depiction of the Union Jack. And there's also this famous fort on which
Hmm.
George Washington flew the very first American flag after, when they declared the war. And that was the Continental Union flag.
Right.
And now they apparently have an annual ceremony every 1st of Jan where they still fly the Continental Union flag on top
Oh,
of the
interesting.
fort.
So they
Yeah.
actually embrace that as a part of their revolution history.
Yeah. So much later, like about a year later, the stars were added in the canton. There were 13, independent states that fought the British. So they would add 13 stars and 13 stripes to represent them. A few years later, when Vermont and Kentucky joined the Union, they would add 2 additional stars and 2 additional stripes. So the
Mm.
number of stripes go up to 15 that year. And later on, they, kind of realized that the stripes won't scale. So they end up
Just
sticking to the
imagine
13 stripes.
if it was 50 stripes with 50 flags, people
Right.
would be like, it's red and blue, right? And it's like, no, there's white in middle. The small thin lines of white in middle.
Yeah. um, And what was also interesting is the placement of the stars was not
Hmm.
specified in the flag code for United States. So the stars can be arranged in different forms. So you might see flags of America with like all the stars in shape of a circle or all the
Ah,
stars forming a bigger star. You kind of have a bit more leeway in changing that. But then the standardized flag is like more well structured. So interestingly, the flag in 1912 was this with 48 stars. And if you were in World War One or World War Two carrying the American flag, it would be this one with 48
I
stars.
see.
Because it was only after World War Two that Hawaii and Alaska were added, and that
Aha.
comes to 50 flags that is still used
Wait
today.
a second. So Hawaii was not part of United States in World War II?
It wasn't officially, no.
So Pearl Harbor incident was not like American attack.
Hmm. I'll have to check on that. That's interesting. Maybe it was
Yeah. Or
like
maybe it was not a state, but it
it
is just
probably
a
wasn't a state.
colony like Puerto Rico
Right.
or something.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
I found one
I
more
was like,
interesting thing about the American flags, and you might have seen this in movies or TV shows representing American soldiers. The flag patch, which is usually on the right arm,
mhm,
is reversed.
notice
And
that.
yeah, do you know why it might be the case?
I don't know if they're looking in the mirror, it should be right, right side up.
It's not an ambulance.
When the terrorist is looking in the back rear view mirror, they should see the right side flag. They'll be confused if not, what is that?
Um,
Hmm,
so it
what could it be?
dates back to the older style of battle. Earlier, when there were mounted cavalries and infantry units, they apparently
Hmm.
had this official flag bearer who would kind of lead their,
Hmm.
battalion. And when you lead and you're running with the flag, the stars are on the side of the flagpole. So it kind of represents that you are marching forward. It symbolizes that the army is always advancing and not retreating, because the other way
Hmm.
it can kind of look like you're retreating.
Interesting.
What I want to do next is, instead of focusing on individual flags, I want to do a cluster of flags. look at people, countries, circumstances that kind of ended up influencing a larger region, and how some of that shared history is represented through flags. And the first very obvious, cluster of flags is the Scandinavian flags. This is the Scandinavian cross. And they all have this format because they all have a shared history. And it all starts with Denmark. There's a legend behind the Danish flag, and the legend says that when the Danes were fighting one of these battles, the Estonia campaign, it was not going according to plan. They were doing quite poorly. They had this bishop who had accompanied them to the battle, and he was seeing how it was going, and he wanted to, pray to the god to help them. And he finds a spot on top of a hill, goes there, prays to God, and the god listens, and from the sky, he throws what is called the Dannebrog,
Okay.
which is the Danish flag that we know of today. And the king apparently catches it midair before it falls down. He raises the flag, and everyone is pumped. They have just witnessed a miracle right in front of them. And they're so charged that they fight courageously and end up winning that battle. And the same flag goes on to represent the Danes in all the other conquests that they make. Now it's a bit
Interesting.
flimsy to track it to this origin, but it seems to be the story behind the flag that is most popular.
Interesting. That 800 years, the story stuck. So
Yes, yeah. So did the flag.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Now, let's talk about why all these different countries have the same shared history and same flag. So there was something called the Kalmar Union, which basically was Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, parts of Finland, parts of Greenland as well, and a lot of islands next to Britain. And the flag representing all of them was this yellow and red flag. So later on, when, because they have this same shared history and there's so much of, kind of reverence to Denmark, because Denmark is like the big brother in this whole union. Sweden, when they later change their flag, they make it blue and yellow, and it matches their royal coat of arms. And Norway was initially ruled by Denmark and later by Sweden. And when they finally, start fighting for their freedom, they're really inspired by the French Revolution, and they take the colors from the French flag as an inspiration and use it in
Red,
their
white, and
flag. So,
blue.
right. So that's why the Norway flag, ends up having these colors.
Interesting.
Interestingly, even Finland was occupied by Sweden, and later Russia fights Sweden in Finland and ends up taking control of Finland. And this goes on until the Russian Revolution. And during the Russian Revolution, Finland declares independence because they are seeing that things in Russia are not quite stable. And when they do this and they get their independence, there are competing thoughts about what the flag should, represent. One of the groups, they recommend this flag, the red flag with a golden lion in them. The other faction, go with a white and blue color flag. There is like a lot of cultural, significance to white and blue, and there's this very famous Finnish poet who said blue stood for the plentiful lakes and white stood for the abundant snow in Finland. And you kind of see in like the landscape of Finland as well.
Yeah.
This looks exactly like the flag. So you have these two factions. They're not just fighting about the flags, they're fighting about like almost everything, in terms of how to proceed with an independent country. You wouldn't be surprised that there's a civil war between these two factions. And the Russians end up backing the red flag camp, and they end up finally losing, and then we end up getting the flag of Finland that we have today. And finally, the flag of Iceland, it was one of the last countries in this set to get independence. Before they gained their independence from Denmark, they were using this blue and white flag as their unofficial flag. When they get their freedom, Danes make this request of them to, add a different color to the middle to distinguish the flag from, other flags. Because if you look at the flag of Sweden and Iceland, from far off, yellow and white, they are hardly distinguishable. So the red in the middle really helps. Next, I want to go with another cluster of flags. Let's go to the Middle East. A lot of interesting flags there and a lot of shared history as well. There is a lot of cultural significance to the colors that are used. And one of the first times we kind of see all these colors come together is during the Arab Revolt. And this happens around World War I when the Ottoman Empire is losing its grip. A lot of the Arab tribes try to fight the Ottomans, and they have the British helping them. You can kind of see in the map where you have the Allied powers and Central Power. When they start revolting, they need a color that unites all these tribes. And there's also this very famous poem in the region where they say, white are acts, black are battles, green are fields, and red are sword. And there is also some more religious, context to this as well. The color white was used significantly by the Umayyad dynasty that started in that region in 661 CE. And then the Abbasid dynasty took over and they used the color black. Both the color white and black have relation to the Prophet Muhammad as well. So apparently the white color was used in one of Prophet's first battles. The black color is used to mourn the death of the relatives of the Prophet Muhammad during the battle. And that's why you see even on Muharram, people wearing the color black. Then the color green is also popular. It is popular among the Fatimid dynasty. And also it was the color that the Prophet Muhammad used when he was conquering Mecca. And finally, red was the color of the Hashemite dynasty. And the guy who designed this and wanted to unite the whole of Arab world was someone called Sharif Hussein. He comes from the Hijaz area. So you see this area over here. He worked with the British and French to, create an internal revolt while the Ottomans were still fighting the Allied forces. And later on, the British end up, not following through with their promises. Hussein claims to be the king of the Arab countries, and they are like, but we thought you're only the king of Hijaz. We didn't agree on you being the king of whole of Arab world. So they have like some falling out. Other leaders from neighboring tribes also take advantage of this and make their own move. And also the British and French, they agree on something called the Sykes-Picot Act, which ends up dividing this entire region. A lot of countries that were formed even much later after the Arab Revolt still end up using the same colors. And interestingly, the flag of Jordan is the exact same flag as the Kingdom of Hijaz, or the flag of the revolt, and they just add a star to it.
I actually didn't know there was a star in Jordan flag. It's the first time I'm noticing it.
And there is more connection to Jordan and Hijaz region than like just the flag. The son of Hussein was the first king of Jordan. Yeah, and his dynasty, the Hashemite dynasty, still rule Jordan, and they claim to be direct descendants of Prophet Muhammad.
Right. Yeah, I've read that. Yeah,
Right.
that is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Right.
And Palestine flag is exactly as
the flag of Palestine
Jordan
is
flag.
exactly the flag of the Hashemite dynasty.
This is that why they kept that flag, because that was the one which was
I think so.
uniting
I think
the Arab movement.
The Arab Revolt actually inspired like a lot of these countries to maybe break free from powers that were ruling them. So you kind of see similar thing going on with other flags. If you look at the UAE flag and the flag of Kuwait, they are also very similar. Apparently, the flag of Kuwait is the only national flag that has an acute trapezium in it.
Nice.
Yeah. um, One interesting connection I found was with Egypt. Egypt also ends up using similar colors, although they add their own meaning to significance of certain colors. So after the Ottoman Empire, they have the Kingdom of Egypt, which you kind
Mhm.
of see similar colors as with the Ottoman flag or the flag of Turkey.
Right.
Um, but later, when there is the Republic of
Not colors,
Egypt,
the symbol.
right. Sorry. Yes, they have the same symbols as the Ottoman Empire. Later in 1952, when they have this revolt and they form Republic of Egypt, they create this flag with the colors inspired from the Arab Revolt. Interestingly, after this, they form something called the United Arab Republic, which has both Egypt and Syria being part of that republic. So both Syria and Egypt use this flag for a couple of
Interesting.
years. And the two stars kind of represent these two countries being united. Iraq also shared a similar flag, and it also had two stars, basically one representing the Arabs and the other representing the Kurds. Later on, when um, the Baath Party took over, which was the socialist, party in the
Saddam
Middle
Hussein.
East. Right. They end up adding three stars in union with Egypt and Syria. But there is no union. It's just
Right.
to symbolize unity. And later, Saddam Hussein ends up adding this text in the flag. It means Allahu Akbar, God is great.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And similar colors, but definitely not inspired by the Arab Revolt for Iran. The Iranian flag colors were used much before the revolt, and in 64, the Shah dynasty basically create this flag. It is the flag with the lion and the sun. And later, when the Shah is overthrown by the Islamic Republic of Iran, they commission for this flag to be created. And it has very interesting symbolism. They wanted to move away from the royal symbol, but still keep some cultural, symbolism there. This symbol represents a tulip.
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
apparently, tulip has a lot of significance in the Islamic tradition, especially in the Shia Islamic tradition. There is a legend that when Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet, who was fighting in this battle of Karbala, when he was killed, the place where his blood fell, there was a tulip that rose up from there. So it's a symbol of martyrdom. And
I see.
you kind of see how significant it is even in today's day and age with Iran,
Right.
where martyrdom is like a big thing. And you see, their attitude towards this war as well with that. And very interesting symbol on both the green and red. It's a text. It's not just a design. It's a text again saying Allahu Akbar 11 times on top and 11 times on bottom. Very interesting way to incorporate text into a flag, which does
Right.
not, look too off.
I would have actually thought it was just green, white, and red until you look closer and like actually observe. It's actually such a beautiful flag, so well
Right.
designed. It's
Yeah,
so well
yeah.
thought through. Even the tulip itself, the symmetry in it, the curves, it just looks so elegant. I mean, way big upgrade from the previous flag. But also I've never seen in any flag of writing with white, which incorporates into the color. And it's so subtle that you don't notice it when you're flying the flag. Like if there's flag somewhere, you wouldn't notice there's something written on it.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like definitely one of my favorite flags.
Yeah. And finally, with the Arab Revolt, there were a lot of places that were trying to disassociate themselves from the Ottoman Empire. But not everyone aligned with them completely, with the revolt. And you kind of see, Algeria and Tunisia, which were still part of that empire, they still ended up using similar symbols as the Ottoman Empire. And interestingly, there were some protests in Egypt against Turkey, and people were burning flags. And apparently, a lot of Tunisian flags ended up getting damaged because people thought it was the flag of Turkey.
Yeah.
I'll come back to this guy, Hussein from the Kingdom of Hejaz. As I was telling you, when the British backed out from supporting him, one of the tribes called the Al Saud tribe took advantage of this. They claimed that people were not being allowed into Mecca, and he ends up conquering Mecca and part of the Hejaz Empire. And he also has an alliance with the British where he takes some of the neighboring kingdoms as well and proclaims this entire region to be independent, and that ends up being Saudi Arabia. And you kind of see in the symbolism that they were not aligned with the Arab revolt and wanted to create their own identity. And the biggest tribe in Saudi Arabia is this tribe called the Wahhabis, and they had this tradition of writing the Shahada on a green cloth, and that is what ends up becoming their flag.
Right.
Shahada is basically proclamation of God. This text actually reads, there is no God but God. Muhammad is the messenger of God. It's written in Arabic, so it reads from right to left, which is interesting because what do you do on the other side of the flag? And this is one of the flags where, on either sides, it is read correctly from right to left. It's not symmetric. Maybe they have a different cloth, still having the same orientation. And the sword represents the royal family. The country is named after the Al Saud tribe. So
Saud. They're monarchs. They own the land.
Some interesting anecdotes about the Saudi Arabian flag. It is one of the only flags in the world which can never be flown half-mast. So a lot of flags are flown half-mast when like a dignitary dies or someone of importance in the country dies. But you can never fly the Saudi Arabia flag because it has the proclamation of God. You are not raising it halfway down, for anyone. And it got really interesting when in 1994 there was the Football World Cup happening, and McDonald's thought it would be really nice, a symbol of unity, to put all the country's flags on its takeaway bags. So they put the flag of Saudi Arabia also on the takeaway bags, and people from Saudi Arabia are pissed. They are like, you are desecrating our symbol, which has like a lot of religious,
was Indian flag also on the bag? Because that's also desecration.
True, yeah.
Good thing India didn't make it to the World Cup.
Yeah. And
if not, a billion people will be angry that Indian flag is desecrated.
Yes. Because over here, it's not just the flag being desecrated, right? Like, with this symbolism, it has much more significance than a national flag.
True, yeah.
True. And interestingly, again in 2002, FIFA again decided to print all the country's flags on their football, which which were later had to be withdrawn.
Wow.
So now from the Middle East, we'll move to Africa. You might have seen a lot of flags from Africa having similar colors and similar design. One of the main figures in giving some of these popular colors to a lot of African countries was this guy called Marcus Garvey. So Garvey was born in Jamaica, and he created the Pan-African movement. And later to, take it to rest of the world, he moves to America, where he tries to advocate to the African American population that they should be proud of their heritage, and
Hmm.
that they should go back to their motherland and build their life over there. And to do this, he also starts a transportation company. It's called the
Mm.
Black Star Line, which was created to take people from the Americas to Africa. And this company also had stocks that you could invest in. And there was some financial fraud, case that was levied against him, and he was imprisoned. And later he ends up moving to London, where he stays for a few years. But
So this guy was born in Jamaica, had a company in US, and then went to
yes,
UK, and
correct.
he's
Yes,
advocate for Africa.
yes. And a few interesting things. Apparently, this really racist song, which was popular in 1900s in America, and it was titled "Every Race Has a Flag But the Coon," and coon was this derogatory term they used for African Americans. And he
Mm.
was really pained by this, and he was like, "We need to have a color to unite everyone." He creates these colors for everyone who looks like him, to rally behind. And interestingly, he seems to have taken a lot of inspiration from the Ethiopian flag. And there are
Mm.
some accounts which say that he probably confused the yellow to black, but you kind of
Mm.
see both the color combinations in a lot of countries from Africa. Quick note on Marcus Garvey before we move to Ethiopia. He ends up moving to London, as I said, and dies in London.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, he never gets to travel to Africa.
Wow. So
Yes.
I was just saying that.
Yes. Poor guy. And later, his remains were taken back to Jamaica, where he was buried. Um, and
So
if
even
you,
in death, his remains one also didn't go to Africa.
yeah, yeah,
It's
poor
interesting.
guy. Yeah, uh,
Is he well is he a renowned figure
he is.
among the
So,
Africans? So
uh,
what I'm
he-
saying is very disrespectful to him then.
Uh, right. Yeah, he is quite popular. His works were read by Martin Luther King Jr. And Malcolm X and a lot of African leaders who then go on to fight for the independence of the country. Although his work had a lot of religious, connotations to it, but it was still maybe the first time a movement was so widespread about emancipation of the African American people and for everyone to feel proud about their heritage, especially the conditions in which they were in the
Yeah,
US.
true. Yeah. They didn't feel like they belonged there, so they have to
Yeah,
look for somewhere.
right. And one of the countries that everyone looked up to in Africa was Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is the only country in the continent to have never been conquered by any colonial
Oh,
power.
never been
Italy,
colonized.
yeah, no one colonized it. And Italy had tried to colonize it and, try to take some area of Ethiopia, but Ethiopians fought them off. And again, during World War II, Italy tried to, colonize Ethiopia, but they weren't successful. So it became the symbol of hope for all the other countries to look up to. And the imperial Ethiopia had this lion, symbol of a lion representing the monarchy. So the monarchy in Ethiopia is also very interesting because it is said that the first emperor of Ethiopia was the son of Solomon and Queen Sheba, who are
Mm,
these characters from the Bible. So
right.
um, gives it a lot of weight in that religious context. And interestingly, the Ethiopian empire flag is the same flag that was taken up by the Rastafarians in Jamaica. If you see Bob Marley, who popularized the movement, and if you see any Rastafarian, you see similar colors over there.
Yeah,
And later on,
interesting.
this star was added, and the royal symbol was removed. And this apparently is the Star of King Solomon.
Mm.
And now you will see this color in a lot of other African countries that later go on
Right. You
to
can't unsee it.
become independent. Yeah. And very interesting case of Ghana, which was one of the first countries in this list to get its independence. The first prime minister of independent Ghana was this guy called Kwame Nkrumah, who also had studied in the US and had read a lot of Marcus Garvey's works.
I
And he was
see.
really inspired by that. He took the colors of Ethiopia uh, and added a black star in honor to the Black Star Line company that Marcus Garvey had
Oh,
created.
right. Ah, I had no idea.
And interestingly, the football team of Ghana is also called the Black Stars.
Did a lot of people from the US move to Africa with that company?
Uh, I don't think so. I don't think it ran, but it was a project that he started thinking it would really catch on. So later, when Guinea gets its independence from the French, it uses similar colors of Ethiopia, but in the French vertical stripe style. Uh, and Cameroon as well was also colonized by the French, so uses the same color in different order but in similar format. Togo had 5 territories that it wanted to represent in its flag, so they use the same color but a slightly different design. Mali is another country which was again occupied by the French, so you see similar influence. And if you look at it, it's the reverse of the Guinea flag.
Yeah.
Very similar. Yeah.
The green shade is a little different, but yeah,
True.
otherwise
Yeah.
it's the same.
And then Senegal is also similar, but with a star. So you see a lot of commonalities, but it all traces back to Ethiopia as the big brother. And looking at the next scheme of colors, I have added countries from Africa and West Indies as well. And you see Jamaica has the St. Andrew's cross, which is this diagonal cross as a religious symbol, but uses the colors of Marcus Garvey. And Ethiopia. Kenya is interesting because they use the colors of Marcus Garvey, and they, in the middle of the flag, they also had one of their warrior shields. So this shield belongs to a tribe called Maasai. And you might have heard of this tribe because there is this place in Kenya called Masai Mara, which is very popular for hosting the Great Migration that happens every year, which is this phenomenon where millions of animals cross this river into this region. And the tribe of that region used to use the shield that represents them. Yeah.
That's actually very iconic of what African tribes are like, that shield and bows and stuff. It just represents the heritage of Africa. So it's really cool to have that in the flag.
True. And apparently Kenya used a flag of one of the tribes that weren't the majority population, and maybe in a good way, right? It still represents the country, but it does not create this tribal superiority for anyone. Another interesting flag is that of Mozambique. So they use similar colors, but the symbol they have in the middle is very interesting. They have a star because the government had socialist inclinations. Then they have a book to promote education. Then to represent farmers, they had a hoe, and they have a literal AK-47 on the flag. This is the only national flag in the world that has a modern weapon on it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Saudi Arabia can have a sword. Why not AK-47? Yes, it's symbolizing the same thing.
You need to update with technology.
Yeah, exactly.
So next we'll go to one of our last areas, and now we go to Latin America.
Wow, you remembered. Wow, this is the most unfortunate continent ever, never included in any of the things. Yeah, but really, let's talk about
No, no,
Bolivia. I
go
think,
ahead, go ahead.
let me guess, is he the founder of Bolivia?
Good guess, good guess. Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
But more than that, it was very interesting for me to read the history of South America because I could not wrap my head around few of the nuances while
Hmm.
reading it, and it was very interesting to go through it. Um, and if you see the freedom struggle for a lot of countries in Latin America was very different from the freedom struggle we've had in Asia or in the Arab world or in Africa, because the colonization that South America faced was much more longer and in a lot of cases way brutal in terms of the impact it had on the indigenous population. So a
Right.
lot of them end up dying through wars or the diseases that the Europeans end up bringing. And
Hmm.
it is so bad that in whole of America, right now the indigenous population is just 10%
Hmm.
of the entire population. And it
But a lot of
was
it died because of the smallpox and the diseases,
exactly,
which,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yeah, both the wars and diseases during that time.
Yeah.
So Columbus ends up coming to what is today known as Venezuela in 1498. And you start seeing some of the countries get its freedom in 1810 or in early 1800s. So this was a long time, and a lot of indigenous people had either died or had moved to interior territories of the country during this time.
Hmm.
So you get to see something very interesting. Maybe you can draw parallels with America, with some of the independence movement here, because a lot of people fighting the colonialists are people who share the same heritage and language and culture as the colonialists. And apparently there was this social class system as well in South America, where if you were Spanish from Spain, you were on top of the pyramid. But if you were Spanish, had Spanish ancestry, but born in Latin America, you were second in line, and you did not get a lot of privileges that people who were born in Spain got. So a lot of these revolts are people who are called the Creoles, who
Hmm.
are people of Spanish ancestry born in Latin America, fighting
Hmm.
the kingdom of Spain, which is very different from what we see in Asia or Africa, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I think
again,
the Americas in general have that in
right,
common.
true, true. So this was very interesting to learn. And what had happened in like 1800s, early 1800s, was Napoleon ends up invading Spain and capturing the king. And because of this, there's a power vacuum.
Hmm.
And a lot of people like Simon Bolivar. So Simon Bolivar is said to be the great liberator because he liberated more land area than Napoleon conquered in his
Oh,
lifetime. Yeah,
fun fact, I never realized how big South America is. Only when I
yes,
play GeoGuessr and I get something wrong and I realize how far I've been and it's
right,
just another country. And I'm like,
yes,
wow, it's like 0 points because it's just a beside wala country. Like
right.
very
No, no,
interesting.
true. It's quite large, and he has a very funny name given to him. He's called the Iron Ass because
Okay.
let me read the fact to you. So, because apparently Bolivar rode more during his campaign than Alexander did, Napoleon did, or Hannibal did during their campaigns. So Bolivar rode 123,000 kilometers
My God.
during this campaign, which is 10 times more than Hannibal, 3 times more than Napoleon, and twice as much as Alexander.
Ah, yeah. Because
So
he
it's a
had to cover
large,
all of South America. Yeah.
true, true. Um,
Insane.
yeah,
And this is also like mountainous regions and all, right? Like it's not flat land like Alexander covered.
Right. Yeah.
or Napoleon covered. It's like Hannibal sort of thing,
Yeah.
crossing the Alps, sort of the Andes Mountains.
Hmm. Right. I'm not quite familiar with the geography, but yeah, I would guess so. So Bolivar has his fellow revolutionary, someone called Francisco de Miranda, who is very similar to the guy Lafayette in the play Hamilton.
Mm.
Because the French Revolution starts and Lafayette, ends up going to Paris to fight that. Our guy Miranda had fought in the American War of Independence, then
Ah.
fought the French Revolution, and then came to fight the
Oh
Spanish
wow!
Independence War.
He's like, this lifetime is for revolution.
Yes. And he later settled in London, and apparently London still has a plaque outside the house he stayed that he
Ah,
used to live here.
should go visit
So
that
a truly
sometime.
international man.
So, is the Miranda rights related to this guy?
I'm not sure. Might have to check, but probably not.
Must have been, yeah.
Yeah. So Miranda, when he was fighting, all these different wars, created this flag that represented him and his troops. And he says he was inspired by this one fresco of Christopher Columbus that he had seen in Italy, where Columbus seems to have been raising a flag similar to this with yellow, blue, and red colors when he first stepped into Venezuela.
Mhm.
There was this very interesting symbolism to this as well. If you see, the color yellow and red are the colors of Spain. And
Right.
now there is like the Atlantic Ocean and blue separating the kingdom from their colonies, and very interestingly represents these
Hmm.
areas. So in 1810, Bolivar and his military junta, they end up expelling the Spanish governor in the province which is now known as Venezuela. And Venezuela was the first countries to get liberated.
Mhm.
And Bolivar has had such an influence over this that Hugo Chavez, who was the president of Venezuela a couple of years ago, he ends up renaming the country to the Bolivar Republic of Venezuela,
Oh,
adding the creator's name to it.
nice.
Bolivar does not stop at Venezuela. Although it was the country he was born in, he
Mhm.
later goes on. He goes to Bogota and ends up liberating Colombia as well. And you see
Nice.
similar color in the Colombian flag. Later goes on to liberate a lot of other countries, so much so that he had covered the modern day Colombia, Panama, Ecuador, Venezuela, a bit of Peru, and a bit of Brazil as well.
My
So
God.
ends up liberating a
Okay.
large number of countries. And as you had
Wait.
mentioned,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There's no Bolivia in that list.
yes, yes. Very interestingly, the country Bolivia is named after Simon Bolivar, but they don't end up using the same colors. They use a green instead of blue.
Ah, I see. Okay. It's still similar colors here.
Yes, yeah.
The
Um,
yellow is important, I think. Yellow
right,
and red are important.
yeah. And there is a interesting pattern with another set of countries in South America. And in the previous one, you had seen still some link to the Spanish kingdom, although with
Mhm.
their own symbolism. Argentina has this one part in their history where the British tried to attack Argentina, and the Spanish didn't send any support for the
Mhm.
Argentinians to fight the British. So there was this militia that was formed that like for the British by themselves and won. They
Oh.
were successful in, fending them off. They had used the color blue, white, blue to represent blue of the sky, white of the land, and blue of this river that is quite popular. It's called the River of Silver.
Mhm.
It's this long river that flows through Argentina. And also the name Argentina is interesting. It actually means silver because it was
Yeah.
said that there was a lot of silver in the country,
Mhm.
but a lot of silver mining only took place in recent times and didn't happen historically. But interesting name.
Yeah.
Um,
AG, right? The silver
right.
in
Yes.
Latin.
Yeah. So when the Argentinians were protesting and fighting for their freedom, they also had Uruguay with them because it's neighboring countries. So they were all assembled outside this town square. There was this one representative from Spain who was supposed to sign a document for independence, and they were all protesting for him to sign it. And it was a cloudy day. Everyone was gathered there with this blue, white, blue ribbons and badges, with them, because they had just fought this war and it was still fresh in their memory. And suddenly, apparently, the sun broke out. That was the same time when the independence was declared. The papers were finally signed, and to commemorate this, they have the symbol of sun. It's called the May sun on the flag, and a similar color is also in the flag of Uruguay, and the stripes represent different regions within the country. And it's not just in the southern part of Latin America that you see it. You also see it in Central America. So there was this union of Central American countries, which included Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and Honduras. And they all formed a union, and they used a similar flag as Argentina. And there is this story that the Argentinians had offered this flag to the El Salvadorian militia, and that is where this flag comes from. But later, unfortunately, when they split, they still end up carrying the same colors with them in their newly formed country. So Nicaragua, if you see, they have the same color, although maybe a little darkened, but they have the same triangle as well in the middle. El Salvador too uses the same pattern. Honduras as well. Guatemala is in like a vertical style rather than horizontal. Apparently, historically, Costa Rica also had a blue, white, blue flag, and they were so inspired by the French Revolution that they later added a red stripe on their flag. You kind of see, like, again, how they had this shared history and influence from Argentina.
Yeah.
And also you see two contrasts. One trying to, retain the symbolism from Spain, and the other trying to, get away from it.
Reinvent itself.
Yeah, I have the last one.
Yeah.
Cool. So the last similar color scheme I found was with the Pan-Slavic countries. So there was this Slavic conference in Prague that happened in 1848, and they took the colors of the Russian flag, which is blue, white, and red. And later on, when Yugoslavia was formed, initially they used the same flag as this Pan-Slavic colors before World War. And after World War II, they added a star, symbolizing the victory, and also the Soviet star in the middle.
Right.
And later, when Yugoslavia splits, you see a lot of countries using the same color scheme.
Czech Republic went
Czech Republic. Correct. Yeah, I added Czech Republic here because it still belonged to the Slavic countries, but wasn't part of Yugoslavia. You see like a similar red, blue, white color here. One interesting anecdote about the Croatian flag. So I was talking to a friend of mine who is from Croatia, and he was telling me about this flag, that the correct representation of Croatian flag always starts with the red checkered mark first, and then white, and then it continues. Although there is a flag in Croatia which starts with a white checkered flag, and that is apparently used by a lot of ultra right-wing parties and groups.
Wow.
So if you see a Croatian flag with white checkered mark, run away.
I mean, such a subtle difference they keep. Like, what? I'm for this union of this country, except for you guys. With the just change the color a little bit, and like, no, I want you out of my country. My God. I mean, show some nationalism by changing the color or something, like just changing this pattern by one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really,
Well,
okay.
yeah.
So need to be careful. Need to be very attentive.
True.
Imagine if right-wing Indian, something, instead of 24 spikes, we have 25. And that's the right-wing one. going on. So you should use that flag instead.
The Akhand Bharat flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, this was like a very exhaustive presentation.
Yes.
Brilliantly done. I think
Thank you.
you covered like most schemes, a lot of data, and flags itself has like, such history to it. It ties into the nationalism of the country. It also ties into some symbolism of the history. And like, for example, Iran flag or the Saudi Arabia flag, these were so complex, geographies, so rich in history, and the nuances they had to cover to just show it in a pictogram is like a very difficult thing to do. And yeah, that's a really, and there are so many similarities between some symbolisms between the countries. Very beautifully covered. You covered from the beginning on, grouped them all into clusters and showed what the history was for each of them. That's amazing presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. And it was really fun reading it as well, because it gives you a good start to understand history of a country through their
Yeah.
flag. And then you can later expand on like different time periods, which is quite interesting. I had a lot
I
of fun.
really appreciate that you put so much effort into the first episode itself. I mean, it just definitely sets a bar, but I will not I will try to reach this. This is a very exhaustive presentation,
No,
very
you're
well researched.
underestimating yourself. Thank you.
Let's see. Yeah, but this is definitely going live. Yeah? I don't want to waste this research behind.
Yes. I'm quite happy with how it went.